crisis. The joys of hosting a hybrid meeting. I believe online can hear us. Can everyone in the room hear okay? Yeah. Fabulous. Online, I believe can see us. And so we have phone contact on G. I'll be up here on my phone. We're a couple of minutes past our original start time, so I think we have two people here for these debate who fortunately no introduction, so I won't take up no time. The format's going to be that I have 5 minutes each to introduce yourself. Then we have 6 questions that come from the audience, and then there'll be 5 minutes on them. And so I'd like to invite them to the stage. Everyone give them a round of applause, please. You'll remember the last hustling you did. I was working off the Yorkshire Humber. So who went first last?
I went first last time in Yorkshire.
Would you like to go?
Okay. Yeah.
How are we? So if all is all right and everything's online?
Brilliant. Hello, Derby. Hello, East Midlands. It's brilliant to be here with you. You look fabulous. It's fantastic. There's so many people. I gather twice as many as the last conference, something like that. So fantastic. Give yourselves a round of applause. We're going to give the first round of applause of the day, and I'm sure there will be many if Green Party conferences and events have passed for anything to go by. I'm Ellie Chowns. I'm the MP for North Herefordshire, and I'm one half of the Ellie and Adrian co-leadership bid, and I'm really delighted to be here on behalf of both of us today. And of course, that's the advantage of 2 of you in a co-leadership, right? You can be in 2 places at once. We have had a brilliant time as the Green Party over the past few years. We've had our most successful period ever. We have quadrupled our number of MPs, doubled our number of councillors. You've done brilliantly here in East Midlands as well in recent years, haven't you? I've too many names to mention, but you've all done really fantastically, winning more seats, holding reform to account, and oh my goodness, isn't that important, especially in this region? So good on you, and keep up that absolutely excellent work. And we've had those successes as a party because we've learned the lessons of years and years. We are all standing on the shoulders of giants here in the Green Party, aren't we? We are building on the hard work of generations of Green campaigners, Green candidates, Green activists that have gone before us. And we have learned how to win elections. We've learned that in the grossly unfair system that is first past the post, we have to focus our efforts. We've learned that we have to reach out widely because we've got to convince a plurality of voters to vote for us, to trust us with their votes. We've got to make sure that we communicate the things that we care so passionately about in language that connects with the concerns of the majority of people. We've got to connect up our passions and their issues. That's how we win elections, and we've shown that we know how to do it. I mean, Adrian literally wrote the book on this, helped write that Target to Win manual that's been so essential to our success in the West Midlands, my region, and I'm sure in this region too. And so it's not the time to change course, friends. It really isn't. Now is the time to double down on the winning formula that is tried and tested. Now is the time to double down on target twins. Now is the time to double down on making sure that we communicate in a way that connects with the broadest possible range of people. Because politics has been blown wide open, hasn't it? We are no longer in a 2-party system. Those 2 big parties have utterly failed us. The Conservatives failed us appallingly in 14 years, and now we are seeing the failure of Labour and the total dissolution that is understandably leading to. And to those of you who joined the Green Party recently from Labour, I've spoken to a couple of you already in the queue for coffee this morning. Huge welcome to you. This is an amazing family of people. I joined the Green Party 10+ years ago because I was so frustrated with politics. I was driven to it, honestly, by Nigel Farage. I could not bear the way he was taking the country. I couldn't bear the politics of polarisation and hatred that I saw growing in the country. And I wanted the politics of people like Caroline Lucas to become much, much more powerful in this country. And I got involved thinking, I'm going to deliver some leaflets, I'm going to, pay my subs basically. And I just got more and more and more involved. And that's probably been the story for all of us because our passion about political change is what drives us to be involved in the Greens. That's the party that I got involved in. I've been an activist since I was a teenager. I've marched on the streets of London for decades. I've worked my entire life for social and economic and environmental justice. But I knew that politics is so important. It's how we make change happen. We make change happen by getting people elected. And that's what Adrian and I have shown how we know how to do. That's what the huge teams that we mobilise have shown how to do. So many of you here came and helped me with my campaign last year. I am super grateful to you. You saw how we did it. You saw how we connected green passions with the things that people cared about. And we won support from across the spectrum of people who previously would never have thought they could vote Green, but knew they could trust the Green that was standing and knew that if they voted Green, they could get Green, because we show by winning elections and then by doing brilliant things when we get elected, as we're doing here, that people can trust us with their vote. So that is the model that Adrian and I believe in totally. It's the model that has won us those recent years of super success, more than ever before. It's not the time to turn our backs on that, friends. It's time to double down, to focus our efforts, to stay connected, to target to win, to speak to the widest possible range of people, not just people who already agree with us or who a particular type of rhetoric can appeal to. We need to build the politics of hope and inclusion to tackle the polarisation we see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fabulous. What's that?
Good morning, wonderful to be here. Thank you all for spending the day with us. Many of you will have seen recently, I've been going around the country and speaking to people on the street. And if you haven't seen these, they're all over my social media, where I just stop as people walk past and say, what do you think about the Green Party? And to be honest, lots of people don't have an impression of the Green Party. The places I've been going have not been Green heartlands, because we do need to speak to people who don't already agree with us. So I've been demonstrating that by going to talk to people in places that voted Labour or voted Reform, where Greens have come fourth or fifth. And the videos I've been putting out are really positive, because they show over a period of a couple of minutes, when people hear about our Green Party ideas to tax the rich, to stand against genocide, to fund our public services, to tackle the deep inequality that happens right across our country, but particularly in places around the East Midlands. That's a popular message. And people who would never have dreamed of voting for the Green Party, not because they disliked us, but just didn't even know what we stood for, suddenly after a very quick conversation are saying, you know what, I'm interested in that. There's one video though I've not posted because it's not positive at all, and I didn't want to put the man under any risk, so I'll tell you the story rather than play the clip. It's a young man, he's a black man whose grandparents or great-grandparents came over in the Windrush generation. And he told me that he hated migrants. He hated them on our streets. And I said to him, as a black man, it's not your job to love migrants, but you can see how this is confusing for me. You just said your grandparents came over, but now you hate migrants. And he said, oh, I wouldn't want to stop the boats. I want to stand on a beach with a gun and shoot them. It was one of the most shocking conversations I've ever heard. And I've reflected every day since that conversation that the same system that is poisoning our rivers and destroying our nature is poisoning people's minds. And where do those ideas come from? We know where they come from. They come from the media. People are being told every single day, stop the boats, stop the boats, stop the boats. It's not about dinghies, it's about their private jets, but they still obsess about stopping the boats. So no one is talking about changing course. Of course we need Target to win. But doing Target to win in a slow and steady way will win a few more MPs, great. But what I'm really talking about is challenging that media narrative. Is making sure that every single person in this country knows that yes, the Green Party stands for the environment. We always will stand for the environment, but we'll stand for racial justice, economic justice, social justice. Before every single one of you knocks on a door or drops a leaflet through the door, we shouldn't be arguing about what the Green Party stands for. People should already know. They should have seen our leadership team alongside our 4 MPs, me as leader, 2 deputy leaders, and all of you, all our volunteers across the country. We know this is not about someone who wrote a book a long time ago. That book needs to change. Politics has changed. We can't stand by the politics of 2010 or the 2000s. Of course, we know how to win, and we know how to win big. We also need to adapt to the changing times. And so what I'm talking about is bold leadership now. Bold being really clear about what we stand for, and crucially what we stand against. Leadership is obviously my leadership, I'm running for leader, but actually it's about your leadership. For leadership in our communities, for future MPs that we might not even have met yet. They're not even in this room because they haven't joined the Green Party yet. But actually when they hear us on media and they hear the conversation you have through Target to Win, they say, you know what, I'm not just going to vote for the Green Party, I'm going to join the Green Party. And when I say now, that gets obvious. Not the next general election, not even at the leadership election, but right now, today. The challenges facing this country have never been wider. We live in a huge moment of global insecurity, and people need a Green Party. They need a bold, effective Green Party, and that's why I'm asking for your first reference vote on August 1st. Thank you.
Yes, then we are running.
For the audience contributions. Thank you for your introductions. We'll now go, we have some questions. I'll, because of technology issues, I'll just do them from the chair, so to speak. First one, particularly pertinent this week with votes for 16-year-olds. The youth vote is disproportionately low. How do we get them to the ballot box?
Okay, you went first with me last time.
Well, that was that.
Yeah.
And how long for an answer?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, perfect. It's hugely positive that 16-year-olds can now vote, and I think we should applaud Labour when they do things right. Incidentally, I won't go off on one too much, but we also need proportional representation and to abolish an unelected House of Lords. But let's focus on the question. I cannot stand it when politicians say, I'm so inspired by the young people. Stop being inspired by them, help them get into positions of power so they can make decisions in the future. The Green Party has always had a proud tradition of uplifting young people's voices. And I often say, if you want to see the Labour Party manifesto in about 5 years or 10 years' time, look at the Green Party manifesto right now, because they'll catch up with our ideas. But if you want to see the next Green Party manifesto, have a chat to some young Greens, because very often the conversations they're having right now are exactly the future of where this party is going to go. So I always want to recognise the contribution of our older members and our senior Greens, and I don't think we should ever pit people in a generational battle. There's a video I love where an older person says, you know what I hate about young people? I hate that they're being screwed over by tuition fees. I hate that they're being screwed over by a precarious job market. And a young person says, you know what I hate about older people? I hate the fact that there's so much loneliness in this country and there's so much deep generational inequality. So I think the way we help young people is by knowing that future talent is not found, it is developed. So we need to be in our communities, just like I said in my opening statement, in the communities, working with people, training them, investing in them, because ultimately this planet is their future and this party is their future too.
Getting young people involved, yes, I thought so. Thanks, it's a really super important question. I'm hugely excited about the fact that we've got votes at 16, really, really fantastic. And I'm prepared to kind of say, well done Labour, when they occasionally happen to do something decent. But I've also said really clearly, again, in the media just over the last couple of days in response to this, what about proportional representation? Because that's the elephant in the room, because one of the reasons that not just young people, but so many people are so frustrated with politics and feel like it's not worth bothering voting is because they feel like their vote doesn't count, because we don't have a system where all votes count equally. Now with Greens, we absolutely know everybody's vote counts because we have shown it by going out and campaigning and helping people to get involved in politics and helping to build up that faith and trust that politics can actually bring something positive. And young people are hugely open to that, but what do they say? That's the question that we've got to ask. And I spoke to a bunch of young people, actually who came to Parliament earlier this week, specifically about this, campaigning for votes at 16. And they were saying, it's not just the votes at 16 that we want. We want citizenship education. We want political education. We want an end to disinformation. We want support in schools. It's madness, they were saying. They themselves were saying it's madness. You can come out of school and not know who the Prime Minister is, not know anything about elections. You know, we are failing our kids, right? If our systems are working like this. We've also got a responsibility as politicians, and not just politicians, anybody involved in politics, to kind of reach out and encourage people to get involved. And that's a key thing that it's been huge for me over recent years, to encourage people to consider standing for election. Because sometimes people think, oh goodness, it's not for me. I spoke to young people again this week and in previous events who said, well, you know, I don't know everything about everything. My goodness, you're never going to know everything about everything, and nobody expects you to on the doorstep. They want to know you're a decent person who's really passionate about changing the world, and people respect that hugely. So to any young person, to anyone from a marginalised group who's kind of not felt that politics is a place for them, I always say, step into it. We will support you as the Green Party. That is central to our identity. So political education, getting dirty money, getting disinformation out of politics, that's a key thing I'm campaigning for as part of the all-party group on fair elections. Yes, we need votes at 16, and we need a political system that means that every single person's vote genuinely counts. And that's got to be a key focus for us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The next question we have is a little longer in form and very sort of pertinent to East Midlands. So this is, so we, as a local party, we've consistently exceeded expectations, having broken through from 0 Green councillors to 3 in the unitary, 5 on the town council, 21, increased to 8 councillors elected on the unitary, and 19 on the town council in 2025.
Northamptonshire.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and Kesbury, yes.
Yeah.
So, let's why is it so hard to get any recognition or support from the National Green Party? Is this common to all successful local parties across the country? And how will your leadership help and assist us in hopefully reaching that?
First of all, huge congratulations to Northamptonshire. I think it's Emily and Des that have been leading the group there, and everybody who's involved. Hello, Des. And everybody on Kettering, and it's just an absolutely fantastic example of exactly our model of winning success. And I'm so sorry to hear that you feel that you've not had the recognition that you want and deserve from the National Party. And to the extent that I haven't kind of used my channels to kind of big up people around the country, I'm kind of conscious. I've been focusing on the MP thing, but it's a really good call that anybody in a sort of leadership position should be trying to make sure that we're amplifying everybody's victory. So I'm absolutely going to take that away and remember that. Thank you. I think I talked about kind of building on the lessons that we've learned, and I'm hugely ambitious about what we can do with that for the next general election especially. But we know general election success is built on local election success. And local election success is built on years of campaigning, because in Herefordshire we've had exactly the same situation. You know, we went from 0 to 1 to 3 to 4 to 7 to 9, and then a general election campaign. And it's, you know, it does take time. There are no shortcuts. There's no magic wand. There really honestly isn't. Not to the decent politics that we do. We don't do oversimplification. We don't do 3-word slogans that mean nothing like reform. We don't do big man politics, and we definitely don't have TV programs and multi-billion-dollar, pound funders. We do good hard work and representation of people at the local level. So the specific things, 2 specific things. One is the Path to Parliament scheme. Really hope you apply. The deadline for that, I think, is in about a week's time. I am hugely excited about the Path to Parliament scheme, and personally really want to spend a good chunk of my time supporting the candidates in particular, and there'll be support from the campaign teams too, because it's really not just about the candidates, it's about the whole team. That's how you win an election. And the second thing is about making sure that we're really actively kind of bringing up the voices of groups that have been underrepresented. So we've done well on 3 out of 4 women MPs among the Green Party, but there's all sorts of other aspects of diversity and equality that we've got to do better on in terms of our representation. Thanks. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
We'll take a step forward. That was a very boy band.
Right, I just don't feel well.
When I became deputy leader, one of the things I was really inspired by was Amelia Womack, the previous deputy leader, and she had a famous picture where she had a stack of train tickets from everywhere that she visited. And I've loved as deputy leader following that tradition. So I've been to so many places around England, including Kettering very recently, and around Wales several times. And I'll continue to do that as your leader. I think there's nothing more important than the physical presence of the National Party, whether it's the leadership, the MPs, someone from the Lords coming to visit the community to say, we are here to support you. As well as that, though, it's interesting because Ellie said no three-word slogans. I disagree. I think three-word slogans are actually really important. Get Brexit done, not a slogan that I agreed with slightly. It caused one of the most catastrophic destructive effects in this country you could ever bring about. But undoubtedly, three-word slogans and effective communication is really powerful. Now, I want to take this head on. Farage uses three-word slogans with lies and misinformation. We are never going to do that. But far too often, we focus entirely on the science and the research. That's a really good first step. But then we stay there, and it's just dull, and it doesn't cut through. What we need to take is the science and the research with a three-word slogan, effective communication, and cut through. Now, how does this come back to Northamptonshire? The point is if we're not cutting through at the national level or with our MPs, then that requires the entire party structure to just focus on making sure that 4 people's voices are heard. By having 3 new people in a leadership team, you have 4 MPs plus a leader and 2 deputy leaders who can be working to make more accessible communications, travelling around the country. And the fact that we are being bolder in our comms means we get more members, as has been happening during this leadership election, more excitement, more fundraising. It's all this virtuous circle that I think is exactly how we support our local party. Thank you.
Can I just correct one thing? I didn't say no three-word slogans. I use them all the time. I use it. Those of you who came to help my election know that we said renew our economy, repair our NHS, restore our rivers. You know, it's not about not using core effective modes of communication. It's about not oversimplifying to the point of misrepresentation, which is what reform does. That's the point I was making.
We all agree. Thank you very much. Next question is, what do you think the key issues facing the trans community in the UK? And as party leader, what steps would you take to address them?
I think the core thing facing the trans community in the UK is often not having one single political party that stands with them unconditionally and says that trans rights are human rights, a trans man is a man, a trans woman is a woman, and non-binary identities are also valid. So I think the first thing we need to do in the Green Party is be really clear about our values. Yes, we are a broad church, but broad churches have walls. And for me, one of those walls is if you are going to misgender someone, if you do it once accidentally, everyone's done that. But if it's repeatedly, I would say that is harassment, and that should have no space in a party that considers itself progressive. More widely outside of the political spaces, I think healthcare is clearly a huge issue for trans people. Not just the kind of traditional trans healthcare, but actually just using a GP appointment on a daily basis, or whenever you go to the GP. This is known as, I think, broken leg or broken arm syndrome. That if a trans person goes to a GP or a medical practitioner, they see the person as a trans person rather than seeing them as a person with a symptom that anyone else might have. I think on top of that as well is a very, very hostile media towards trans people. I always remember what Graham Norton said when he was interviewed about this, and I would repeat this a little bit. The question is, don't ask me about a trans person. Like, go speak to a trans person, and let's make sure that we have more trans people in our national media who are able to speak for their community. I suppose I'm slightly aware as a Jewish person that I don't speak for all Jewish people, and not one trans person speaks for all trans people. But it is very noticeable that in the media landscape, the absence of having a trans person in the media landscape is very obvious. And the final thing I would say is that I do believe in a politics of inclusion. I do believe in a politics where there's no stupid questions and people are able to ask questions. And I think the Green Party has a unique space and a unique ability to be able to do that. I just think very often in the past when that's been done, there has been bad faith in those spaces. So as leader, I want to relook at how do we create those conditions where people are able to have able to have conversation. But, you know, to come back to the first thing, I think the precondition of those conversations has to be a respectful space where the most marginalised person in the space is able to know that that's a safe environment for them. And I don't think that's too difficult to do. I think we are a compassionate and kind party, and I actually believe we can do that when we remember we're on the same side. And actually the real problem here is reform and the deeply unpopular Labour government.
Thank you. So I think the question was, what do I think the main challenge facing trans people in the UK is at the moment? And I'm going to answer this reflecting on what my trans constituents have said to me, and I've actually just been writing to a number of them this week, and they've told me that they feel they experience prejudice, discrimination. They've told me they feel fear about the implications of the Supreme Court judgment and the EHRC guidance in particular. They feel hope, they've told me, that we will get to a better place as a society on contested issues. And they told me they want me to advocate for them and to understand their concerns. And I've met with many of my trans constituents in my constituency surgery. Of course, I've had trans colleagues, family members, like all of us for years. But it's been really important for me, I think, to listen to the voices of my trans constituents in recent months in particular, and to think about how I can best represent them and advocate for them, and recognising, of course, the point that Zack made very validly, you know, just because you're Jewish doesn't mean you speak for Jews, just because you're trans doesn't mean you speak for all trans people, and there is a diversity of views among every group. As a non-trans person, I think it's really important that I listen, that I reaffirm it's absolutely fine to be trans. It's absolutely a valid identity. Being trans is real, absolutely, and non-binary, of course. And I'm sort of distressed personally, I suppose, just speaking very personally, by the lack of compassion that is sometimes there in the debate over trans rights among a range of people. And I'm not saying this is on one side or another at all. I think that we all really need to listen to each other. I think we all need to avoid jumping to conclusions about each other. I think we need, as a party, to be able to have open conversations about contested issues. And that's not just about trans rights, it could be about, I don't know, HS2 or nuclear power, all sorts of issues. But there are sometimes issues where things seem to really get very crunchy, and as a party, I think compassion needs to be our absolute guiding principle. And we absolutely can respect that there is a ruling in law that is clarifying the difference between biology and social gender. Yes, there's a difference between sex and gender, and at the same time, we absolutely must continue to be a party that is supportive of trans rights, welcoming of our trans brothers and sisters, and upholding human rights and dignity for everybody. Thank you.
So next question we have is, historically, the Greens have struggled to build working class voters. Part of this is due to historical loyalty to the Labour Party, one question. But this is now breaking down. These votes are being targeted by reform. As someone who is working class and worried about development, what can the Greens do to appeal to these voters?
Thank you. This term working class is really interesting, I think, because it's used by many kind of from a time where there was working class and there was middle class and there was aristocracy, basically. And it's a little bit like, the old binary view of politics, left and right. And as I was sort of explaining earlier, I think we're in a much more diverse world now. And in terms of work, we are in a much more diverse world now. And that is deeply problematic, because people who previously would have been working class, meaning they've got a secure job their whole life, many people do not. We live people have incredibly precarious lives. Many people who consider themselves to be working class. I was speaking to I was door knocking last week with the West Midlands and the suffrage campaign, and knocked on the door of a bloke who said, well, politicians are all rubbish, you're not doing anything for the working class. He was absolutely going to support reform, and it was, one of the biggest and grandest houses that I'd visited. It was, our assumptions about the interests that people had. For him, in the interest of the working class meant absolutely minimal tax. That was basically his point. Whereas for other people, politics that's in favour of the interests of the working class were about making sure there's decent public services available to everybody, regardless of your income or your status or your work status or whatever. Back in the NHS, back in state education, all of these things that are so central to our identity. So personally, I think there's so much in green politics that is about those issues that some characterised by some people as being specifically for the working class. Employment rights as well. We've been pushing Labour even further on the employment rights bill. And at the same time, we've got to recognise that we've got to have a politics that actually recognises that these labels, none of us are a single label. None of us are just a working class label. None of us are just a middle class label or just a rural or an urban. We're a diverse bunch of people, and we've got to have a politics and a way of communicating that recognises that and reaches out and puts our messages in ways that everybody can understand.
I've been really chuffed to have the endorsement of Ian Hodson, and that's not a huge name I know to lots of people in the room, but he's the president of the Bakers Union. And why this is relevant is it's the first time a trade union president has endorsed someone outside of the Labour Party in decades. And that's because he says that he thinks or knows I can be a voice of working people. Now, that's not because I'm claiming to be some kind of leader of the working class, but because I have Gary Stevenson in my ear a lot. And what he talks a lot, and I think brilliantly, is about the inequality in our society. That poor people have got poorer than they've ever been before. Rich people have got richer than they've ever been before. Since COVID, billionaire wealth in this country has doubled, whilst our public wealth, in terms of our assets, has been stripped away. So we can talk about everything else, and we should talk about the environment, the NHS, transport, but actually this inequality is what everything comes back down to. Because it's this inequality in the corporations that are destroying our environment, it's destroying our communities, it's destroying our democracies. And so when we want to stand for working people, it's about recognising that the huge inequality in our society is what we need to change. Now, the final thing I'd say on this is I think a lot of working people, alongside the rest of the 99%, look at the 1%, those elites, those establishments, those corporations, and they feel like Westminster is in their pocket. They've given up on Westminster. They look at Westminster and they don't feel like people really have the anger they're feeling in their communities. Now, I'm not suggesting we give up on Westminster. We need to send more MPs to Westminster. But we don't do it by just hopeful solutions and just hoping that if we focus on Westminster, everything's going to be fine. We do it by rolling up our sleeves and getting into those communities, connecting with the anger, not staying with the anger because that's just what reform do, but then turning that anger to hope. And that hope is the tangible solutions, and that's the unique place that the Green Party can play in British politics.
Possibly, so this is our sixth and final question here, and to bring us back into line with the timing, people have got those to get to today. We're doing this one 60 seconds.
Okay.
And this is
Countdown.
how should the Green Party balance electoral pragmatism with radical policy proposals?
Totally reject the binary. That's what I would say. So this often kind of credible versus bold is what's been put on this election a lot. When you look at the inequality that I was just talking about, when the fact we have an NHS crumbling, when you have the fact that the Met Office is saying we're going to have more extreme weather, if you are not being bold right now, you are not being credible. What we need is credible messengers, a diversity of messengers, working class people in our party, people from marginalised communities, people from the north, lots of people that have not been represented in British politics, and particularly by the Green Party, who are out there offering bold, radical policies. Yes, based on science. Yes, based on research. But the way that we need to communicate them needs to feel urgent. It needs to feel like it can really make a difference. Because right now, if we're just offering more of the same or slow and steady change, people will look at the scale of the crises and go, that's not going to change anything. It is time to go big or go home. It's time for bold leadership.
I also reject the idea that you have to choose between electoral pragmatism and radical policies. I think we have shown as the 4 Green MPs that we have done both, that we do both. I talk week in, week out, challenging the government in Parliament about their failure to act to prevent genocide. We talk all the time in Parliament, holding the government to account, pressing them to adopt fair taxation of wealth. We have opposed the 2-child benefit cap. We have spoken out and led opposition on the PIP and UC benefit cuts. We have been radical in Parliament. I've been a radical all my life. I've been arrested protesting against the arms trade. I've been arrested defending the right to protest in Trafalgar Square. I've been endlessly protesting, and I got into politics to channel my anger at Farage into practical, constructive work to win people over, and we did. We went from very little support in a place like Herefordshire to a huge swing, the biggest electoral swing ever. So I know what electoral pragmatism means. It means connecting those radical policies, that bold conviction of Greens, with messaging that connects with such a wide range of people that we can win in first past the post. I open, so now it's Zack for now. Yeah.
So, I'll tell you just before something up, I just want to acknowledge what a wonderful choice we have ahead of us. We are so privileged, not just in the leadership election, but in our deputies and across all the roles in GPX. We've got so many great people standing for these roles. I think we're privileged. And if we just have a round of applause with them. Now I'll stop that, and we'll get those times going again.
How long is it?
5 minutes or so.
5 minutes, okay, maybe. Won't take 5 minutes. I would vote Green, but it's a wasted vote. I'm not saying that. I would vote Green, but you just care about the environment. I would vote Green, but you're not a left-wing socialist party. We need bolder communications. We need everyone in this country to know that vote Green, you will get Green. We need everyone in this country to know that we are the party that recognises the climate crisis has partly been caused by colonialism, by empire, that we are still extracting oil and gas and we need to ban fracking. We need everyone in this country to know we are proud of our socialist policies. We are proud that we want to redistribute wealth from the super rich to help fund and reduce inequality with our public services. Ellie's talked a lot today, or just in the last answer, about talking in Parliament. I think this is amazing. I'm so glad we have 4 MPs. I worked so hard, as I know so many of you did, to get 4 MPs. And I really hear Carla Denyer when she says that she wants to step down as co-leader to focus on being an excellent constituency MP. If we had 72 MPs like the Lib Dems do, I'd love 72 MPs, but they don't have a coherent narrative. I don't really know what they stand for under this kind of guise of Ed Davey. On day 1 after the general election, Ed Davey was on the Parliament Green, kicking a football around, offering a FIFA tournament to Keir Starmer. It never happened, by the way. A good way of getting attention, but not really a good way of changing the narrative or transforming politics in this country. We need, and we already have a coherent narrative. I just don't believe we're telling it. Again, I'm amazed and so excited that we've got 4 MPs, but do we really think we are cutting through? Do we think that everyone in this country knows that we've got 4 MPs and what those 4 MPs are doing in Parliament? No, because those 4 MPs are busy, as they absolutely should be, working their socks off day in and day out, holding this Labour government to account. But what we need to combine now is the campaigning, the movement. We need to build this mass movement around the country, around England and around Wales, that is going to challenge the inequality in this country, to challenge the genocide that this government are not just complicit in, but active participants. They are selling arms and they are sharing intelligence with the Israeli government. When Israel and America started to illegally bomb Iran, Keir Starmer didn't just not condemn it, he kind of gave implicit codes that this was okay. So we've said this repeatedly, but the work we need to do has never been more urgent. And we all know this, and there is no disagreement in this race about the work that needs to be done. There is very little disagreement in this race about the policies. There is no disagreement in this race about target to win. We absolutely need to win more MPs. I believe the disagreement is about how bold should our communications be. You may have seen a discussion me and Ellie had where I said we need to fuel anger and turn it into hate, into hope. Now, I respect Ellie's position about a compassionate and inclusive politics, because that's my politics too. Those of you who know me or have seen me for a few years know that I'm not an angry person that's just there to shout or rally. I'm there to build that hope and build that compassion. But I think if we don't meet the anger, if we don't recognise that so many people in this country are so unhappy right now, that's when we start to hear other stereotypes. That we're too middle class, that we're too out of touch. The only way, and I really mean the only way we're going to change that, is by being in communities, by turning up, by day in and day out, even when Parliament is sitting, turning up in those communities, being there at the rallies. I've spoken at almost every Palestinian solidarity campaign rally there has been, other than today, because I'm talking to you right now. But if I wasn't there, if I wasn't here, I'd be there. Just a month ago, I was speaking at the People's Assembly. That was a coalition of groups, disabled people against the cuts, people speaking out against the two-child benefit cap, people speaking out against regional inequality. All of those things, I'm there at the rally, and then I take into my work at the London Assembly to challenge Sadiq Khan, where I've chaired the Environment Committee for the last few years. I have been doing this work, and I will continue to do this work with your vote as the next leader of the Green Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've had an incredibly successful few years. I want us to have a super successful next few years. And to do that, we need to build on the credibility that we built already, the trust we built already. Absolutely. We need to step up our comms. Absolutely. I want every person in the country to know what the Green Party stands for. And I want them to feel that what we stand for connects with what they feel and what concerns them. I want them to feel hope when they hear us speak, not polarisation. I want them to trust in us because we have demonstrated that when we get elected, we do great work with them. Now, Zack and I have both got full-time jobs, me as an MP, him as an Assembly member. Both of us are busy. But there is something special about being an MP because there are journalists around all the time wanting to talk to you about what's happening in the politics of the day. It is the biggest political platform in the country. And let's make the most of that by electing leaders that are there. That's one of the key reasons that Caroline Lucas is endorsing Adrian and me for leaders. But that's not the core reason why. The core reason why is about the strategy for the party. Now, we're actually a party where our members are incredibly powerful. The leader is essentially pretty much a figurehead, which is why being around the journalists, being at the centre of national politics is so important. But it's also about setting the tone for the party. And I do think that there is a choice to be made here. And I do think that the choice we have to make is about communicating to the widest possible range of people. Anybody in this room who's been out campaigning on the doorstep will know that we have to tailor our messaging to the individual that we're speaking to. We have to listen to them first. That's what we do when we go door knocking. We ask them what are the concerns that they've got, and then we think about how to speak to them. And so there is a difference in style between the leadership that Zack offers and the leadership that Adrian and myself offer. And for me, as I explained, the anger that I felt at seeing the rise of Farage has been translated into the campaign that I've done with the Green Party over the past 10 plus years. And I know I've experienced it myself, how positive that has been, because every conversation that we have as Greens convinces more people that we are the people with integrity, the people they can trust, the credible alternative to the failed politics that has driven them to so much frustration already. So we need a politics that, yes, is bold and brave and radical, exactly like all of the speeches you will see me making in Parliament, because that's where I do my speeches. That is my job, and that is a key platform, and you'll hear that on Radio 4 and all over the place as a result. But we also need to be connecting with people, connecting with as broad a range of people as possible. And so that's why I'm asking you to put your trust in Adrian and myself. This is not the time to change direction. This is the time to build on the amazing success we had and transform our future as a party and therefore the country as a result of that over the coming years. Thank you.
Well, that brings our leadership debate to an end. I'd like to thank, this shows the power of having Greens in the room. I think both candidates have really gone out of their way to both be here in the room today, and I'd really like to show our appreciation for that, for the mentioned journalists.